How would you like to make your first million? And today we have Jessica joining us from Mexico, and she's the founder and CEO of the Budget Savvy Bride. So, Jessica, tell us, what are the 5 steps that you recommend to women entrepreneurs out there in order to make the first million?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Well, if I had to kind of boil it down to just 5 things, I think I would say start by solving a real problem. Get into the mind of the customer that you want to serve and figure out what their problem is and how you can solve it. For me, it was helping couples plan weddings while doing it affordably and not losing their mind. And so that's really been my focus all along. So number one, figure out who you're helping and how you're going to help them. Number two, I would say start before you're ready. I certainly didn't intend to, start a business necessarily, but I started with the resources that I had on hand, and they were totally free to me at the time. A free WordPress.com blog and zero marketing budget, and I just went and I was off to the races. Number three, I would say to be consistent and dedicated. Personally, like there's been ups and downs throughout the journey, but remembering who you're serving and why you started is a great way to keep your drive and, consistency going. And then number four, I would say, you're going to build trust with your customer base by being helpful, showing up, and being consistent throughout the time. So, for me, building all of these different resources and expanding over time has just allowed us to continue to reach our customer base. And then number five, I would say diversifying. For my business, having different revenue streams has been like a key piece in growth. So, finding multiple ways to bring in revenue, whether it's multiple products or for us, it's been expansions of the way we deliver our message and information to our audience. So yeah, I think those would be my tips. No gimmicks necessarily, like hard, purpose-driven work, long-term commitment, and being resourceful, I think is what's helped me along the way.
Building a community first is, in my opinion, one of the most powerful way to build a business, and you did it exactly like this. I'm surprised, right? Because we always share in this broadcast that first-time founders, you see, they're very product focused. They create the product, get in love with the product, they get emotionally attached to the product. Second-time founders, they realize the product well. It's better more to focus in marketing and sales, because if you ask the client what they want, how much they want to pay, and you have the strategy to put a product into their hands, well, after that you know exactly what they want and how much they want to pay for it. It will be easy after create the product. Now, third time founders curiously follow the model that you follow, right? And for me, it's the most spectacular, and we always share from this broadcast to all the entrepreneurs and wanna-be entrepreneurs that listen in this podcast to try to focus more in this model that you created, Jessica, with your business model, which is create a market first, build the community first, because if you can build first a community, and like you share, it's actually free. I mean, free. You spend time and you need to create high quality content. This is not always easy, creating high quality content. But if you're able to create high quality content, you're gonna build the community, and then if you have the community, then you can design a marketing and sales strategy, and then last one, you can design the product. And this is the most spectacular way, in my opinion, in these current times. If you ask me 10 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe I will give you a different model. But today, I think that this is the most powerful business model. So Jessica, you are a visionary. You know, when you started 17 years ago, if you tell me that was the way I want to struggle that much in business, like have been my whole life. So
Right.
what
It's
make
very much
you,
like
how you
the
manage?
tortoise and the hare. You know, the
How you manage to build in this way? Do you have a mentor? Somebody told you you were passionate about writing about weddings? What happened? Kind of by
yeah, so the
accident?
the origin story is very common, I feel like. I was a bride who was engaged in planning my own wedding, and throughout my experience of planning a wedding, I realized how few resources there were at the time for couples who didn't have a lot of money to spend. And so, I was freshly out of college at the time, so was my fiance. It was also 2008, so the
Wow.
recession in the US
Oh
was,
my God.
in full swing, and we really had to get creative. We knew we wanted to have, the white wedding with lots of our family and
Absolutely.
friends
Yeah.
surrounding us, a very, joyous occasion. And so I started the website as a personal journal. I was just documenting my experience along the way, and
Well, it was a great
um,
idea.
yeah, I mean, luckily, but not so luckily, there was a lot of people in a similar position where they wanted to figure out how to have a wedding without spending a fortune. And so it grew very organically. And yeah, that's really essentially how it started. And then
And
I realized,
everybody's gathering ideas how to to have a wedding effectively without spending so much, right?
right. And, I think those skills that I had of, figuring things out on my own, figuring out how things worked, creating things myself that I had seen other places, and figuring out how to, either craft it with
Mhm.
craft supplies, or whether it was my website at the time, like Googling and finding out how to do HTML to make my wedding blog look
Mm.
pretty. I think I had that drive to figure things out, that resourcefulness, and that served me not only in my wedding planning, but also in the business.
Yeah, my sister just have a wedding, and I'm looking ahead. I said, "Look, was better to buy a house than get married.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could buy a property." I think that it's a lot of when you get into this. I know this for a fact because one of my business, we do uh, our gala. So we give awards to entrepreneurs, and we organize these big gigs, and it's like a wedding because everybody's telling me like this. I never have a wedding, but the people are telling me, Harry, this is like a wedding because you need the flowers, you have the three-course meal, you have the event planner that have to work with me, I have to speak, I have to perform, the people, then the musician come, they have to play, and so we have to put a show which is very similar to the wedding. And I can tell you that we've been doing events for quite a while now, all over the world. And these gala awards, when it comes, I do it with my partner Lily. And when Lily and I we go into this, we have to do this gala awards. The last one, to give you an idea, we hired the biggest cruise in the River Thames in London. To give you an idea,
Oh, nice.
and we packaged, yeah. So everybody was telling me, Harry, we need a bigger boat, and I'm telling them there is no bigger boat in this river. But is I know a lot of in terms of logistic preparation, timing. You see, you need to put the stage, you need to put the lights, you have to, so people need to arrive not when they want in the certain order. And all this is expensive. And on the other
It
hand, on
is.
the other hand, is one day, and I don't know,
Well, and
wedding
in
gets
your
so
case,
emotional. Yes, go ahead.
I was going to say, in your case too, you're planning a
My one
professional
is several
event, most
days.
likely.
The wedding is
Oh,
only
yeah.
once. You're right. It's even.
Right. But not only that, but most likely there's some sort of like profit margin involved, whether you're charging tickets for the event or if it's an auction, like you're covering your costs somehow.
Wedding,
Whereas with a
everybody is free.
wedding,
Absolutely.
there's like no return on investment. You're just spending out of pocket, right?
Absolutely. And then hold on. And it goes with the events, the hidden costs. Even we have experience doing events all over the world and large gigs. And there is always a hidden cost that
Oh, yes.
that you never expected. Last time in the boat, they told me, Harry, you have to pay more. I said, why? I said, well, if you're gonna be in the boat doing the stage and everything, the captain need to be in the boat. And I'm like, what? What the captain has to do in the boat? Who cares?
They're not
They
leaving the
just
dock.
open the
Why do we
boat
need
for
a
me and I
captain?
put everything. I know. So the captain had to be around. So we had to pay salary for the captain, salary for everybody.
Oh,
Anyway, the whole
wow.
thing, and then you find out this very close, right? So Jessica, I think that planning a wedding this wedding day, which is something that happened once in a lifetime, hopefully,
Hopefully.
yeah,
Not
it
always.
will.
These
Yeah,
days, half
yes,
half of people
but
are
let's aim for
maybe
one of it.
yeah.
Let's aim for the wedding of the day. Um, People, what happens? I know because my sister. Just to give you an idea, the wedding of my sister was 22nd of November, and today
Mhm.
is when I write the photos. So imagine.
Oh,
uh,
wow. Literally
so
today, you just got the
today
photos.
I just received one photo where I am literally today. So again, a lot of goes into that experience that you want to, it's not how much you pay, it's about the service that people receive. Yeah, no say the photo won't
Yeah.
come in amazing. Don't get me wrong, but took a little bit of while, no. My
Yeah.
photos when I do my gala, I have to give them to everybody in 1 week, otherwise, Harry, where are my photos? You know. So, Jessica, what are the biggest challenge that bride have experienced in the last 17 years that you have been in business, and how you had them to overcome that challenge?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I think for couples today, whether bride or groom, I think especially the brides, they're the ones doing the majority of the planning these days, let's be honest. I think they're really bombarded with inspiration and ideas and expectations and societal pressure and all of these various voices, whether it's, what they're seeing on social media from just their friend group, the people they actually know, or, the famous influencers who are getting things for free for their weddings, or celebrity weddings that are just very lavish, expensive. They're doing all this sort of messaging that, like, this is what wedding is supposed to look like. This is what, the expectations are, right? And, for the majority of people, those expectations are not actually realistic, especially within their financial means. And so, the thing that I've always tried to keep like tried and true about what we do at Budget Savvy Bride is helping couples get really, really clear on what are their values and priorities when it comes to their wedding, and B, what can they realistically spend without having to take on debt to pay for this?
And
And
also,
that's
what is
all to,
important, Jessica? And
yeah.
also, what is the most important thing in this in that day and in that wedding for them, right?
Right. Yeah. Like I said, their values and priorities for sure. Because we want them to put their wedding in the context of their greater life goals and plans together as a married couple, right? The wedding is just one day. It's an amazing day, don't get me wrong, but you don't want to be paying off that party. It's essentially a party at the end of the day for years and years to come. You're going to be
Yeah,
sort of like stealing from your
y-
future plans if you
yeah.
go into debt for this party. So that's
Literally, you can
always
buy
what
a
we're trying
house.
to do.
Literally,
Yeah,
you can buy a
exactly.
house. So
Exactly.
you are so how can we do cost effectively? I'm in my experience with the events, right? I don't know, maybe you can side with me. I think I think that the videos and the pictures are the most important thing, because at the end of the day, yeah, this is what you're gonna remember. This is what you're gonna share with your so to the point that the photographer and the videographer that were with me, if I had to fly them over, I will, if we're doing an international event, because they already know what I want, how I want it. They know me better than me, what type of
Yeah.
pictures and videos I'm looking for my events. And that, because even a good photographer, Jessica, correct me if I'm wrong, you have more experience than me. Even a good photographer, even if something in the decoration on the whatever didn't went as planned as should be, with a good eye can make the most out of it. On the other hand,
Yes.
if you have a bad videographer and photographer, even you can have all these beautiful, you can spend a fortune, but then the photos don't reflect actually the values and everything that they want to express. So what is your opinion about this? How can people find good videographer and photographer? And also, if this really the most important thing, because I'm telling you from our events point of view, we know that this is really really important because when we're gonna uh, when we're gonna do the next one, people want to see what's the idea, how the thing works, how we prepare the thing. But I think for the wedding also, you want to show it to, you want to, you want something to remember, and
Yeah, of
um,
course.
and
At the end
some,
of the
yeah.
day,
Go ahead.
your photo your photos and your videos are kind of like the only thing tangible to take away from the day for the most part. And so it definitely is like one of the most popular priorities among couples. You know, they want to get those photos, even though at the end of the day, you'll probably hang two or three of them on your wall. You might put them all in an album. Realistically, how much are you going to look at that album? Maybe once a year, on your anniversary. So you
Yeah.
have to kind of like weigh those things as well. But I do think it is
And
crucial
the
to
video
hire.
maybe you put in YouTube or whatever, but it's the
Right.
only thing
Yeah,
that you're gonna have. This is the only thing
it
that you
is.
get out of this
And
investment,
it's a
right?
physical like representation of the memories, right? Like no
Hmm.
matter what, like you're gonna have the memories in your mind, but being able to revisit them through photo or video is really powerful. And so we definitely see couples prioritizing that above most other things. Obviously, like when it comes to budgeting, the venue and like the reception costs, for food
Hmm.
and drink tends to take up the majority of the budget. But we still see couples really prioritizing the photo and video because of those reasons, because they
Hmm.
are tied to the memories, and those are the things that last at the
Give
end of
us
the
the
day.
top
Those
top
those
top six, 8 things that had to prioritize in a wedding from top to bottom,
Oh,
in your
okay.
opinion. What is the most
Um,
important? 8 things. Yeah. So number one, the most important. Number two, the second most important. Three, four, and five. So for brides, hold on, that want to have a wedding affordable, which is what you specialize, because
yeah.
if we're talking about unlimited budget, that is something different. But also, what would be the priority? That things that they are really really important. The reason I'm asking you this question, so the people can allocate the resources and the time and the money, really, because if at the end of the day, I don't know, photos and videos not priority, you're gonna find a cheap photographer that maybe is not gonna show up, and then what happens? You spend all this money for nothing.
All
So
right.
tell us, what's your view on this?
Well, one thing I will say is no matter what type of vendor you're hiring, definitely make sure to find publicly available reviews for everyone, because that will give you an idea of like their professionalism and their track history and all sorts of things like that. So that's just a quick caveat. But when it comes to like priorities for couples who are on a tight budget or like really want to find ways to do it affordably, the best place to start, honestly, is number one, like you have to figure out what you can spend. Like that is priority number one. Figure out what you actually have in your savings, what you and your partner can save over time to add to that wedding budget, and think how long, seasonally. I guess this would be number two.
If I'm
Like
very tight, can I do it with
yeah,
10K? Can I do it with 10,000?
right. Like, I
ten
mean, you
thousand
can, but
dollar.
there's caveats to that. Like
Yeah,
you
if
can
you are
make
creative,
any
if you're creative, but with less than ten
right.
thousand is it doesn't matter how much creative you're gonna be, it's not gonna work, no?
Well, we actually have weddings on our website. We publish real weddings every week where the couples share their budget breakdown, and the majority of the weddings that we feature are actually 15,000 or less. So we do have a lot
Wow.
on the smaller
Wow, I'm
end.
impressed. These people have to I need to go and learn from them.
They
My
tend
goodness,
to
very
be
creative.
a bit more, yeah, creative, more DIY. We see a lot of like backyard weddings, like local community halls. They might not be the
That's
big lavish
okay. It doesn't
affairs that you would
matter. Wow,
expect.
10, 15,000. I love these
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, start with the budget, figure out what you can have,
Mhm.
what you have to spend, what you can save over time. And then also how long you want to be engaged. Like, when do you want to get married? The timeline and how much time you have to save will also impact how much you can spend. Then, third, I would say your guest count is one of the biggest factors when
Wow,
it comes to
interesting.
your costs.
Interesting.
Um, yeah.
I would say
So,
the venue, but you're right. First is the guest, because if you don't know the guest, you don't know what venue you're
right. So
gonna.
this is what I call like my savvy method, right? Like you got to start
I
with the
love it. I
foundations
love it.
before you get your eyes. It's almost like when you go to the
Actually, gonna take
buffet
this
and
tip
your
from
eyes are
me. I'm
bigger than
taking
your
this tip for
stomach.
my events. I'm gonna take it for my events because usually we get, oh, I love the venue, and sometimes a lot of people, and then we have to fill everybody, and
Right.
so
I
that's
I always
amazing.
talk about, sort of like the buffet analogy. Like you go to the buffet and your eyes are bigger than your stomach, you might, you know, load up your plate too full and not be able to finish it all. And it's sort of like the same concept. You want to really get clear on, your budget, your guest count, your timeline, so that you know realistically what you can spend on this thing. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go through your priority items for the wedding itself. So your venue is obviously going to be one of the biggest thing that everything else kind of hinges on. And so you're going to want to find a venue that can accommodate the guest count that you have that fits within your
And
budget.
Jessica, for these
Um,
people need time, because if you're rushing the
yes.
venue, this is where your budget can go out of control, right?
Yeah. It's
So people
interesting
should have a
because if
time
you
after you know the amount of guests that you're gonna have, let's say 200. That is, if you go and you find, just look at only one venue that you can fit 200 and whatever, that's it. You tie. Whether if people allocate time and they look around for the venue, that would be amazing to save some money, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's interesting because sometimes couples can get a really good deal on a short timeline if a venue hasn't booked up dates that are within a shorter time window, they might be willing to give that up at a discount. So that's one way you could save even with a shorter timeline. But the as soon as you know sort of like those core three things, if you need to plan further out in advance to get the venue of your dreams, like that's great too. It gives you more time to save and more time to like put together the event that you really want. And so beyond, venue, I think a lot of the things that couples prioritize are again photography, videography, and then everything else just kind of like fills in around it, right? Sometimes your venue is going to include the catering. I think anything that impacts the guest
That sometimes
experience,
is
like
expensive.
food,
That sometimes
yeah,
is expensive.
right, expensive, costs, a large portion of the budget, but also has the biggest impact on your guest experience and on your experience. So things like food, music, flowers are a thing that give couples a lot of sticker shock. They're very expensive. There's a lot of ways you can make a wedding beautiful without having to do a ton of florals. So if that's an area that you need to cut, I think that tends to fall more on like the lower side of priorities for a lot of couples. But, another thing I wanted to mention was just, really talking to your partner about what each of you actually cares about on the wedding day, because you want to make sure you're aligned and you're doing things that they are going to make both of you happy at the end of the day.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, Jessica, talking about flowers, with the flowers, you also have to be careful because it takes time to set up the thing. Remember one of our events, the woman want to do a wall of flowers, and I'm say, okay, fine. I don't know this idea where it come from, but and I'm asking, and
Very
then I
popular
find
now.
out, yeah, but I find out the day of the event that that thing takes a lot of time. And
Yes.
I'm like at the end of the event, I'm like, I have this stage, the light, everybody coming in and out. I'm supervising everything. And I'm telling to my team, I cannot have this woman in the middle of all this doing this flower
Yeah.
wall. It's not gonna
Well,
happen. I'm sorry. We put flowers on the table, whatever, because I had to put the stuff. I cannot have this woman. I thought that this is gonna be quick, but no. I find
yes.
out the other event that this thing takes a lot of time.
And this
So
is one of the things that it's actually a really good reminder for couples. One thing I always want to encourage couples to do, no matter what their budget is they ultimately should be the guests of honor at their own wedding, right? They shouldn't be working on their wedding day, setting things up
100%. That's a
themselves,
very good
you know,
point.
doing all of those things. So no matter what budget you're working with, whether you hire a day of month of coordinator, or if you can't, like having a family member or a friend who you trust to be designated to lead things like that on the day of, like you owe it to yourself to be able to just
Oh,
enjoy that day.
I'm glad that you touched this point because this is really important and been there, done it. And
Yeah.
wow, last galas that we did, we have an event manager with us, and oh my God, our life was so easy because
Yeah.
we used to do the events and manage ourselves at the same time, and you have to speak, manage the event and everything. It's too much, but somehow we start to work with an amazing friend that have experience managing large events, and he was there managing the event, and I was talking to my girlfriend. I said, I can't believe that this event goes so flawless. What is missing? I said, no, what is missing is that when you don't have 100 people talking, Harry,
Yeah. I
why,
mean,
where I put this? What should I do with this? All the things that we used to that deal with the gazillion thousands of questions, they were all disappear because the event manager was so in this case, wedding coordinator. So I think,
yeah. I
Jessica,
mean,
that
they are professionals. They're used to managing timelines and
absolutely.
logistics and
You
setup
do not
and, you
for a
know,
wedding. You do
delegating.
need if you need to cut a cost, don't cut that one.
Yes, I
Don't because
totally,
your
totally
day is
agree.
gonna be a nightmare, and then again you're gonna be look exhausted in your photos and everything because a lot of things happen, and also how to deal with adversity. I remember the wedding on my sister. It was um, in Miami, right? And then we are there in this room where all the boys stay. I don't know how you call this. I don't have too much experience, but anyway, I was there with my friends, with
Mm-hmm.
the family members and whatever. We need to be there, all the boys there, and it was
Mm-hmm.
no water, and we are
Oh
like,
no.
what? It was
Were
no
you a
water
groomsman? Is that what you mean?
in the groomsmen, and then we find
Yeah.
out there was no water also in the women's
Oh
thing.
no.
Actually, was no water and everything. So somehow, for 1 hour, they had to call the mechanic. The mechanic arrived, and guess what happened? A lizard get inside the water pump, and
Oh
that's
my
why was
goodness.
no water. So they had to open the thing,
Only in South
remove the
Florida, right?
lizard, yeah, remove the lizard, and then there you go. We finally have water after 1 hour or one
Oh
hour and a
my
half.
goodness.
So imagine when you have
And those
everything
are the things you
with.
just can't expect or plan for on a wedding day. There's always going to be something that pops up.
But if you have a
And having,
planner, if you have an event
well,
planner,
right.
it will keep everybody calm. It will
That's the
keep everything in
thing.
mind. If you don't have this event planner, my
Having a
goodness, the amount of
planner or a
pressure,
coordinator who everyone can go
coordinator,
to in case
yeah,
of something like that popping up, and they're the
yeah,
one that handles it, not you as the bride or groom.
yeah. Now let's be
Yeah.
creative, Jessica, because I think if people become creative, they can have an amazing wedding without, and they can save a lot of money. And don't get me wrong, if you can afford it, you can have the wedding of your dreams. And I think in Jessica, like for example, if somebody get in love with the venue, I have that problem myself. I'm the type of person when we do the events that when I see a venue and I get in love with the venue, I said I'm doing my event there, and then I had to feel it. Something that I do with the venue that have been working very good for me in terms of budget is I'm telling them, look, tell me when you're not busy and your lowest season. Don't
Yeah.
worry, I adapt to you. Okay, you tell me, I don't care if it's Friday, if it's Thursday, if it's whatever. I like your venue. I cannot pay you standard price because I do this for a living. so, so I adapt to you. You tell me when is your usually in London. January nobody wants to do event. It's cold and it's after Christmas. So we have very good rates usually in January. So we see most of my events are in January and February when nobody's doing it. You know what I mean? To get a good rate. And I think for the wedding, if you also it's all this creativity, Jessica, you're talking about if you are creative, you can have an amazing wedding for a fraction of the cost. I think that the people, one thing that they should be doing is reading your blog, yeah, and
Yeah.
reading
If
the
I had
following
a
the content that you're creating. That will help them a lot, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If I had a nickel for every time somebody said, "Oh, I wish I knew about you when I got married."
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
be really rich. No. But yeah, so that's always our goal is just to provide couples with resources, ideas, information, introduce them to things that are going to help them save money, whether it's finding, an alternative to a traditional wedding service. Like to your point, you were talking about venues. Obviously, it does take up a large portion of the budget. Looking into the shoulder and off-peak seasons in the area where you're wanting to get married is a great tip. It is one of the best ways to save. There's always going to be times of year, depending on where you are, that are just less popular and that venues have more availability. And so they are more likely to discount those dates if they're not in as much demand so that they have more
And
consistent
always
revenue
be
throughout the year.
creative. Always be creative.
Yeah.
Remember in that boat last gala that we did, they told me, okay, Harry, this is the budget, this is how much it is there, but then you need to pay 4,000, 6,000 pounds on top. And I'm like, 6,000 on top? Why? They say,
Yeah.
well, the boat had to move. And I said, what? He said, yeah, the boat had to move. So we need petrol, we need salary for the captain. The thing had to move. So we're gonna be sailing for the whole river, and it's 6,000 more for that. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
said, listen, hold on, why we gonna move this thing? Stay keep the boat, stay. I said the money. We open the bridge at the end of the event. The thing is gonna move anyway, but can we do it for a fraction of the cost? And they say, okay, Harry, this is what you want. We move the boat and we open the bridge at the end. I said, there you go. The boat
It
is gonna
never hurts
move
to
anyway.
ask, right? The
Exactly.
worst they can do is say no.
Exactly. I'm
Um,
thinking, why you guys want to move this boat? I do all my events in hotel all the time, and they are all static. So, so again, if you're
yeah,
creative, you can save still with the I think with
yeah,
the budget in the. And you always have friends and use maybe Jessica the resources that people have. But now, Jessica, what resources do you have apart from information? Yeah, in the network that you have built with so many years that you actually can help them, in terms of maybe, I don't know, venues that you can recommend that they work with you, or videographer and photographer, or I don't
yeah.
know. I
It's an
don't know about
area.
the people that do the
Yeah.
cake and everything. I think this is also separate. I remember because that was my task to go and pick up the cake and to give back the cake. And this is
Oh, that was your special
the
errand.
that was, yeah, and I remember it was
Yes.
was tough because I had to go a lot way too far because that was the place that they made the cakes, that they whatever. So I had to
Yeah.
I had to go there to collect it and to give back the board and everything. So any resources that they are affordable for couples that you have built within your network doing this for every
Yeah,
year, where can they
definitely.
find these resources? How can they find your content, and how can they find these resources? Tell us how this process works.
Yeah, of course. So, our website is thebudgetsavvybride.com. There's tons of articles there that you can search by subject matter. So that's a good place to start. We also have a directory for wedding suppliers or wedding vendors
Wow.
called the Savvy Wedding Guide. We are currently trying to grow it. It's based in the US, but filterable by the 50 states in the US, and looking for more vendors to list their businesses there because it is a great place to get discovered by couples who are looking for those resources. And so that's an area of the business that we're growing. We launched it about a year ago, and beyond that, we also have a paid community. So we have a membership platform where
Oh,
couples can
wow.
join and get access to tons of exclusive content inside. I do Q&As with the community. They can ask me specific questions. I'll give them feedback and advice on their weddings and their various plans, any sort of questions they might have along the way. And I'm working on sort of like a course that goes along with that
Oh,
because
wow. That's a lot of
I don't
value.
Lots of things to find. Another thing I don't think I've mentioned yet, but I have a book out there in the world. It's actually one of the top selling wedding planning books.
What's the title?
Probably
Where can
probably in
we
the
get
last
this book?
Yeah, absolutely. It's called The Budget Savvy Wedding Planner and Organizer. It's available most places books are sold. You can get it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, Target, depending on where you're watching from. It's sold over 250,000 copies so far.
Wow.
The second edition just came out last month, so it's expanded. It started just as a paperback book, and now we just came out with a version that is a three-ring binder, so couples can actually put all their contracts and inspiration and stuff inside their binder. So it makes it a bit more interactive
And
and
they can have
useful
the
for
book with
them
them.
in their
Ah, wow.
plans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's
So,
way, if people can save 20, 30% or 40% in the wedding, we're talking about a lot of money, huh? They
yeah,
actually
I think
they actually
so.
can have the wedding and buy the house if they
Yeah.
follow your advice and for
That's what
the
we
I
want
mean
for everyone.
17 years of experience is a lot of it's the same time that I'm been in business. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of experience and a lot of ideas that actually the community had contribute. And I know for a fact that when I see the figures that the people spend in the events that they do out there, I'm like, guys, I think you're spending too much.
I
So
mean,
I
we
see the
listen,
figures
but we
of
don't
people.
judge, but
Yeah, yeah. I think that, when
but
I
I can
see,
think of better ways to spend that money personally,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah. I think
to
when
each
I
their
see
own.
the people, doing events out there and in London and on the States, and I see, I'm like, guys, if you with a little bit of creativity, you can save a lot of money because events
Yeah.
are expensive. This is
It's very
something that,
expensive. I'm not sure what the averages are in the UK, but in the US, they're being
oh,
reported
in
at
the
around
UK, tell me
around
about it.
35. I think the US average is between 30 and $35,000 for a wedding in the US, which I don't know how accurate
Yeah,
that is, but that's what
in
they're reporting.
UK will be a little bit more, I think. Um,
Yeah.
the which is again, you can buy a house for that money. So imagine if you can
Yeah,
save
put a down
40%,
payment on something.
absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
100%, and the couple has somewhere to live. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think now, um, let's talk about your journey as an entrepreneur. Usually, a lot of people on this podcast on a stop of 5 step how to make the first million, even myself, right? We all have become entrepreneurs by accident. We start to
Yep.
solve a problem by ourselves, and then after we solve it for ourselves, we solve for another people. My first business was in property. We managed to sell over 5 million, but I started because I was paying too much rent myself. I decided to rent a house and rent the house by rooms, so then my room would be free. And
Mm-hmm.
then I saved and then I'm thinking, well, if I keep doing this, the same amount that I'm saving, I can make it for more money, and then provide the service. We call it landing services. People were arriving to London and they want to learn English. They finish university, so they were only interested in a room with good internet because the rest of the time they're gonna be or working or partying. So they didn't care too much about the living room. They never spend time there. So we turned the living rooms into rooms, and then we did an amazing business landing services in mine before Airbnb and everything. So it was amazing. But the whole concept is that trying to solve a problem for yourself, and then you start to helping other people to solve this problem. So when you solve this problem for yourself, when was the moment that you have that click that you say, okay, you know what, I'm going to start to build a business out of this, and I'm gonna help other people to do it, rather than go out there and find a good paid job and have a very and have a life where you go 9 to 5, Saturday and Sunday, you don't need to worry about anything. And corporate America, they pay good money. So why you decided that no, I'm not gonna go to that route and I'm gonna become an entrepreneur? Do you really knew what you were getting into? Because I
I
didn't, yeah.
didn't. I didn't know what I was getting into, and I
Neither
I
do I. Yeah.
honestly didn't even realize I had a business on my hands
Yeah.
until about a year after I started the blog. I got married, and by that point, I had generated a decent following. I had about 1,000 people visiting my website every day at
Wow.
that point. And I wasn't doing any advertising. I was just writing content. And back in the day, people would link to each other's blogs and comment on each other's blogs. And so it just kind of grew word of mouth that way.
Wow.
And then I had some companies reach out and ask if I would be open to putting advertising for their businesses on my website. And it was at that point that, I spoke to a friend of mine who actually was my wedding photographer, um, who I was doing a little bit of freelance work for at the time. And she was like, "Oh, like this is a business. We could build a business plan for you out of this, and like you could really do something with this." And so, sort of with her guidance, I like put some things together and started, doing more of those opportunities when they came in. And then it just grew really organically over time. And I just realized along the way that I much preferred working on something for myself that was helping people, that was making a difference in people's lives, that I had control of, and that I had, autonomy over my time, freedom of like how much time I wanted to put in, how much money I could make. And ultimately, like looking backwards now, I realize like it was always what I was meant to do, run my own business, but I don't think I ever would have predicted it for myself, you know? It just wasn't at all the path. Like I had no one in my family who was an entrepreneur, nobody who had run a business before or anything like that. So I just didn't know it was a possibility for me. I just fell into it. Um, so yeah, it's a surprise, but it's been a
Interesting
process and a
journey.
journey that I'm really proud of. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Amazing. Like I said, the we have been so lucky that somehow, but same my case with my family. There is no entrepreneurs. My parents are teachers, and my grandpa was an entrepreneur, but he died when I was very young. And I mean, he has small grocery store. So um, this roller coaster that we were getting into, you don't realize that you're working. You are so immersed trying to make this work. When we are founders and I started our first business, you get so immersed. I remember that the first 2 years that I was starting my business, after 2 years I went to Piccadilly Circus in London, which is very centric, and,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going there, and I'm thinking like, wow, I haven't been here in 2 years, and this is where just like a one day out, and I haven't been here in 2 years, and the interesting thing was I didn't even miss it. I was so
Yeah.
immersed trying to make this thing work without without any knowledge, trying to figure it out yourself, that you get so immersed. But guess what, after you make it work somehow, something amazing happened. And it might have this disconnecting from reality that the other day I was in Hyde Park, or the other day, like a year ago, I was in Hyde Park in London, and a friend come and tell me, Harry, I'm going to India. And I'm like, wow, you're going to India? Yeah, I'm going for a week. And I'm like, man, how come you're gonna go only for a week? India is so far from UK. If you go for a month or two. And the guy told me, Harry, I just only have 7 days of holidays.
Right.
And that's
Especially in the
why,
US, people
and
don't get
yeah,
unlimited
usually
vacation.
usually I'm hanging out with entrepreneurs, so this type of conversation is kind of common. Okay, let's go for a month, let's go for 2 months, let's do this. When we do speaking, if I'm going to speak in Dubai, I don't arrive the same day. No way, I arrive a month
No.
early, and again, you know, holiday,
You
then
gotta
the
adjust to the
speaking,
time
and then of
zone
course you
and
need to stay. Then you need to stay because after the event you need to speak with people, give it or take. We spend because we're going to speak. We spend 2 months in Dubai, then in Singapore the same thing, Mexico,
hmm
Peru, wherever we go, we try to when we get invited. Oh wow, this is our space to have a long holiday, and this is how we operate. And then you talk with a lot of entrepreneurs, people that come to this podcast. They are all entrepreneurs, so I spend most of my time among the entrepreneurs. So this friend is because I dance salsa and he come from our salsa community. So that's why I have this
Nice.
reference. And he told me this, and I say, oh wow, okay, fine. And then I'm thinking, Harry, how disconnected you are from reality, that you don't know that most of the people live like this, that most of the people don't cannot actually
They don't have the
live how
freedom.
they don't have the freedom. And also the metro, I don't know, here in US you guys don't have this kind of things in so many places. Well,
No,
but
most places.
in London we have, and oh my god, the metro in the morning, this is a nightmare. It's full of people. And again, time to time, once a year, twice a year, I have a meeting. I have to wake up early. I have to take that thing. And this is another shock of reality that every time that I go to this metro full of people, 8 a.m., I'm like, man, I'm so lucky.
Yeah.
I'm so lucky that I had to do
Well,
this only today.
well, and you
So
can easily fall into the trap too once you become an entrepreneur if you don't find ways to manage your time or delegate or,
that's the other
get
thing.
things off of your to-do list. Like I definitely hit a period of burnout where I was like, I had moved to New York City and I was hustle, hustle, grinding, trying to grow my business. And I just got really burnt out. And I was like, I realized I had kind of lost sight of that like freedom that I really wanted.
The
And
first
so
two
I,
years, the first 3 years, I don't know, the first 2 years, at least for me, it was it was very intense, exactly to the point that you can get burned out. I was
burnt
exhausted. I
out.
was, yeah, 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 yeah. This is part of the process, because
Yeah.
being an entrepreneur, the more you practice, the better you become. And the first 2 years, no way. First 2 years, first 3 years, until you don't make the thing work, basically you increase your sales so you can employ other people
Yeah.
to do stuff. You wearing all the hats, and it's a very intense process, not for everyone. And some people quit and said, I'm not having it anymore. You have to be, well, like this podcast, you have to be unstoppable.
Yeah.
Unstoppable. In order to go to the other side. But then, Jessica, when you are on the other side, it's amazing. And also you learn through that journey. You see, little by little, the most important thing that you have done during those years is to build your community, right? From the very beginning, they still people following you. There are people that know you. So that community is like your how can we call it? Is your market. Is
Yeah.
is uh is the people that support you, that follow you, but also the people that follow you and support you the most, that they buy products and services from you. Same like, for example, in London, when people are playing the music, I give them money. Why? Because I want them to keep playing the music. So the people that follow you and they're paying for the service, clearly they're supporting you and they want you to keep doing this because you're gonna help more brides. And I think this is fascinating. If you can actually, people can actually have the wedding and cut the budget in half and buy a house at the same time. I think that what you do have a lot of value for people out there. I think this is more reasonable and more financially. Let me put it in a way.
Responsible.
There you go. Responsible, because you don't want to end up. That's the other thing. You spend a lot in credit cards during the wedding, then your credit score goes down. Now you need to wait more to buy a house. I don't know.
Yeah.
Things become complicated for a day that should be good. So thank you so much. I think you're brilliant. I think so. Tell us again where people can buy your book. What's the name of the book,
Yeah.
and the website and everything. So how they can find you.
Yeah, happy to. So my website's thebudgetsavvybride.com. So you can find tons of resources there. My book is called The Budget Savvy Wedding Planner and Organizer. You can find it online on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, pretty much anywhere books are sold. It's sold internationally as well. And another thing I wanted to mention is I'm actually planning an upcoming online summit for engaged couples. It's
Oh
completely
wow,
free. So an online event, it's completely virtual. Any couple from anywhere can attend it virtually online.
brilliant.
the information there is thebudgetsavvybride.com/summit to get all the details on that. It's happening June 21st and 22nd. And it is targeted more towards American couples, just because that's our primary audience. But one lucky couple will win a free honeymoon. We're actually
Oh,
giving a
wow.
honeymoon away.
My
We have a
goodness.
lot of different giveaways, but there's a grand prize for a honeymoon to Margaritaville Island
Wow.
Resort in Riviera Maya,
Wow.
Mexico. So it's
Wow,
amazing.
probably
We're
they're gonna
super
save
excited.
money. They're gonna save
Yeah,
money
yeah,
if
they'll
they
get a
win
free
a honeymoon.
honeymoon, save money on your wedding, get
Absolutely.
some good advice
Uh,
to help you
uh,
plan your day your way, we like to say. So, really excited about that event and all the amazing things in store for that.
so Jessica, well done. I applaud you for this business. We can call it lifestyle business. Clearly, you love what you do,
I do.
and you love wedding, and basically you love also help brides to save money. So I can see that you're glowing when you talk about your product, and because you know that with a little bit of creativity, people can save a lot of money. I know also because I organize events all over the world, so I know that when you have a great mentor, someone with experience on your side, this is not something that we're talking about thousands in savings. So thank you so much. And for all of you following the broadcast, see you in our next episode of Unstoppable. How a brave entrepreneur like Jessica break that wall and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.